Welcome to Crypt Ricks I've been thinking. What's this show all about? Well, it's all in the title. He enjoys interviewing people about issues that he finds interesting and which cause him to sit back and think. Cryptocurrency, true crime, natural law, the occult. No topic is off limits here. He has always enjoyed when people give their points of view or thoughts on different topics that they have researched. And what makes it all great is that it's their unique take on what is being discussed. For that reason alone, it makes it interesting to him. So take that walk down to his crypt. Make yourself comfortable, and just maybe he will be discussing a topic that you have been thinking about. Here's your host, Crypt Rick.
Welcome, everybody. Of course, if you are tuning in, you know it is Monday right here at Revolution Radio. And I am telling you, if I'm telling you what I am thinking about, it is how cold it is here. We are like at minus 14 and it is dropping. So I can tell you that winter has got its grasp, at least this evening. Beautiful day today, but the weather is getting cold. But I am happy to admit and at least say that the wind has died down, which has been crazy. It cost me my show, my Friday show. I do apologize to everyone if you tuned into my Friday show, which is in Studio B from 7 to 8 p.m. I had the wind knocked everything out, so I was it didn't come back up till like almost 9:30ish or something like that. It was crazy. The windstorms that we are getting here are something I've never experienced, and it just seems to be getting worse over the last couple of years. I've talked to people about this, like people that like in this area and people that live even in, a few hours away from me. And they're even saying that there's something going on with the wind and the weather. And I definitely can tell you that in my area, it's crazy. The wind is crazy. Even on nice, beautiful, sunny summer days, we have these crazy winds that are ripping through where I live. And it's causing all kinds of trouble, and trees are falling all the time. It's really something interesting. And when I was talking to Bill last night, we were talking about this, and then I've talked to so many other people about this that's going on. So it's not just my area, but winter is staying true to form. It is keeping its cold. Like I said, we are already way in the minuses, and I'm sure it's going to get even worse tonight. So I hope everybody else is staying warm. And if you are living somewhere warm, then I am so jealous. I'm so jealous right now because I miss summer so much, and we only got a couple more months of this cold stuff. And then we're going to be back on the road to spring and then summer, which is amazing. I'm looking forward to it already. I've never been a fan of winter. I make no qualms about it. People always say, well, you live in Canada, you must be used to the cold. I'm like, yeah, I live here and it's cold. I don't like it. I'm not a skier. I don't go and do winter sports, so I'm not a fan of the cold. I tell people that all the time. It's something I have to live with and deal with because that's where I live. But I'm not a fan of it. And I know a lot of Canadians that are not a fan of our cold weather in the winter. So that myth goes out the window. I live here does not mean I gotta like it, and I don't. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. The snow's beautiful, and first snow falls, and when it's all nice, pristine looking, I love it. It's still an amazing time of year, but I'm just not built for cold. Not with my condition. The cold is not my friend. So that's just a little update about the weather. I hope everyone, like I said, is doing well. Thank you for being here, tuning in, guys. Hello to everyone in the chat. I will make sure I get into the chat at some point. I haven't got in there yet, but I will come in and say hello to everybody. Do not forget, this is so important, to donate if you can. It is listener-supported right here at Revolution Radio, which means it is your guys' generosity, your donations that keep the lights on, keep the show going, keep the host here, providing the shows that all of you enjoy. So that is something so worth supporting. Freedom of speech, obviously alive and well here. Any topic can be discussed. I think that is so important, and I will keep saying that forever as long as I am here. This is something that we are losing, and if you value the content here and all the hosts here, that is something you have to get behind and stand behind and fight for. If you cherish it, you have to fight for it, because it's only a matter of time with all the mass censorship going on that they're going to start coming after shows like this and all the other shows that are doing a free speech outline. And so I think that is the perfect reason to get involved. That is a great way to get involved, is your donations. Lots of ways to donate. Just head over to revolution.radio or, of course, freedomslips.net. and just go to the donation tab at the top of the page. There's so many ways you can donate. There's cryptocurrency, snail mail, direct pay for North America. There is Patreon, of course, which I think is the best. Send an amount that you want to donate, and then they take care of the rest. And that way you are here supporting what you love, the host you love, the station you love, and free speech, all agree. It's a win across the board. And I just think, what a great time. It's the new year, and this is something to get behind. So thank you for everyone who does donate, who is going to be donating, because it's so important right now. And I always want to make sure I tell people that, because I just see how we're losing freedom bit by bit. And, you know, it's a crazy time. We got the presidential thing going on. I have friends that's all they've been updating me with all day is this presidential stuff. And I'm just like, okay, same thing I saw 4 years ago, same thing I'll probably see in 4 years again. And who knows? It's amazing to me how people keep falling for the system and thinking things are going to change. I don't see it that way. I think there's an agenda that is going forward, and they just have people they have, people they put up before you, and great showman. Trump is a great showman. He's good on a mic. I will give him credit where it's due. But do I think that anything is going to drastically change for the better? I hope I'm wrong. I hope it does. I don't think it will, but I'm open to it. I am very open to it. So let's see. Time will tell. Time is going to be what gives us the answers. So that's the way I see it. But a lot of crazy stuff going on, and we'll see. Is he gonna deliver? He's put a lot of promises out there, a lot of promises, and I'm just curious, is he going to follow through with any of them? And what change do we have coming? Some people say lots, some people say none. Who knows? Time will be the answer to this question, and then I can talk about it more as time goes on. But let's see what else we got going on here. I'm just trying to cover everything before I get my guest on here. Let's see here. Oh, don't forget the archive section as well. I always forget to tell you guys about that. That is so simple. Just head over, as I said, to revolution.radio. Go to the archive section. It will take you literally 10 seconds to log in, and then you have access to all the past shows from all the hosts here at Revolution Radio. You can find all of my shows from 3 years ago. Find Jonathan's shows on here. You can find our Thursday show on here, and all the other hosts that do incredible content here at Revolution Radio. And you can literally keep you busy forever with all the shows that are there. There's so many. And that is a great place to go, especially if you can't catch a show live, then go to the archive section. That is where you want to send people. And then you can go check out all the old shows. I like to go back and listen to some of my older shows and kind of laugh because, it was rough. The first ones were rough. But it's still great to have it all archived. I love the fact that is provided, and especially for all of yous. I have so many people asking where they can find all my older shows. I'm like, to the archive section. That's where you want to go. So please recommend that to everyone. And I can't believe how many, it's an incredible archive. It really is. I can't say enough about it. So check it out, guys. Super, super important. And then my final update is drumming. Of course, as you all know, I'm loving drumming. It was a great lesson last Friday. I also did a great interview, which was I was supposed to play on Friday, and I couldn't make the show, as I just explained. So I did upload it. It is on my YouTube channel, which is Crypt Ricks I've been thinking. It is with my drumming teacher, Carlos. He does have the YouTube channel and the website, Drumming for All Nonprofit. And that is something else I would hope you guys would go over, at least check out, show your support, subscribe, check out his content, because he is providing something that is amazing service, which is he provides drumming lessons, even if you cannot afford them or you only have little money. He wants to make sure that if you do have an interest in playing this incredible instrument, you have access to teaching and him as a teacher. So it's incredible. All the money that he gets goes right back into providing lessons for children and even adults that can't afford it maybe. He tries to provide equipment for places around where he lives. A lot of the schools don't have the equipment that they need. So he's doing a great thing. He's paying it forward, and it's a great interview. So please, it's only an hour long, hour and 7 minutes. Go check it out on my YouTube channel. Give it a like, and let me know what you think. It turned into a great interview. It started with drumming, and then it got into a whole new aspect as the show went on, and then we brought it back perfectly, full circle, back to drumming. So it's a great interview, and I'm just sad I couldn't play it for you guys on Friday, but I will play it one day. I got some guests lined up for Friday, the next few Fridays, so it's going to have to wait. But if you can't wait, go to my YouTube channel. It will be there for you guys. I promise. Wouldn't lie to you. Anyways, I think that is all of my updates. I'm trying to remember. Oh, one other thing. See, there's so many. This is like the housekeeping part of things. Don't forget to funnel is coming up. Funnel 4, Humanity Rising. That is coming up very, very soon. I want to make sure I keep promoting that as well. Please go to freedomundernaturallaw.com. During the show, I'll provide some links. All the information will be there. It's coming up in like a month or close to. I can't remember the exact day, sorry. Go check it out. I've been promoting it for a couple of years now. It was part of Funnel 2, where I did my first presentation on shadow work, and that was my first time ever doing a presentation, and I'm so glad I did it. It's not my thing. I'm not a big, this is what I like doing, but I'm glad I had the experience. And there's going to be so many incredible speakers there. There's going to be music there, of course, artwork, and there's just going to be a lot of great stuff. It's a 2-day event. So please, when I provide the link, go check it out. And you want to be there. It's going to be awesome. The last 3 were incredible. The quality of the presentations are amazing, and the content that they're putting out there, I'm so proud to be a part of it. It's a great thing. People that care is what I like. People that actually care about this world and care about humanity and where we're heading is so inspiring when I see people trying to educate people and having these discussions, which need to happen. So there you go. I think that's all my updates. If I got any more, I'll give them to you in the second hour, because I got my poor guest waiting in the wings. I'm excited to make this happen. This show would have fit in perfect for my Friday music show, but I couldn't do it because this was scheduled way before then. So it's going to fit in perfect with this show too. So don't get me wrong, but it definitely would have had a home on my Friday show where we talk about music. And I'm so fortunate that my guest could take the time to come and chat with me. They had a lot going on. They just dropped a new album like a month ago, if I'm trying to remember, and a really good album. I was talking to Bill with it a couple of weeks ago. We actually played one of his songs on Bill's show. I'm going to play maybe a couple during this show and provide some links to his YouTube channel. Let him tell you all about it. But this is going to be a very interesting interview. I'm excited to have them on here. I'm not going to keep them waiting, so I want to welcome Joe Murray, who is a hip-hop artist. Of course, he's an activist. He's a fighter for freedom, for truth, trying to expose the control and the fake control of government that they have. And somebody that is talking about true anarchy and all these great things. And he does it through music mostly. And that is what I love. And he's done songs with Diesel Automatic, who I've had on this show and interviewed a couple times. A great man. So welcome, Joe, to the show. I'm glad you are here, my friend.
Rick, what's up, bro? Thank you so much for having me on, dude. It's been a long time coming.
Well, we made it happen, though. That's all that matters. And well, you had some problems that I'm sure we're going to talk about. So I get it. There's a lot good that was happening in that. But I was just letting people know, Joe, about your album, which I was telling you off air. I really like this album. I want to get into it eventually, and the thought behind it, and how long it's been in the making, and the songwriting processes, Joe, or something. And I've had a couple people on my Friday show where we've talked about writing songs, and I find that whole process fascinating, probably because I can't do it. So I'm trying to learn and be like, how are people writing these great songs? I just don't have that in me yet. So I want to talk about that. But let's go back. I want to go back, Joe. Let's let people know a little bit about yourself. Like, let's go back. Who were you as a young man? Let's say in high school and that. Were you always into music? Was it always a big part of your life? Some details here.
Yeah, for sure. I music, just like, I have music in my blood, man. Like, my father was a musician. He was a drummer. He actually did he actually played with the Misfits, who
Wow.
sure you know them, the punk rock band, the Misfits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they come from my town, dude, Lodi, New Jersey. Grew up with them, like, practicing in my basement, and my father was a drummer, really good drummer.
Go Drummers.
I'm sorry.
I say go Drummers.
Yeah, I'm a drummer too. I was hearing you speak about drums, man. I love the drum. That was my first love, was the drums, man. My father put me on when I was a baby. There's videos of me crawling around with a drumstick, like smacking a snare drum on the floor. So music has just always been a big part of my life. Like I said, my father was a drummer. Had a huge drum set in the basement in Lodi growing up, and would, like, go downstairs and watch him play and practice. And he would teach me, and it just came very natural to me. I just have like a natural rhythm within
awesome.
me. But not just for drums. Like I could play any instrument basically just by ear. Like it just comes natural to me. And so growing up, I like was put on to like rock essentially. Like my father was like, big into like Maiden and Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. He put me on to like all the greats and all the great drummers of like his time. And so I took to that, and yeah, like and then like growing up, I have an older brother who's like 2.5 years older than me, and in the '90s, like that. I mean, hip hop that's when I like boom bap, East Coast, New York, hip hop was really big, and Wu-Tang was out at the time, Biggie, Tupac, Onyx, like all these, like hardcore hip hop artists were coming out. It was an explosion. Like hip hop, that was the prime of hip hop, if you ask me. And being that I had an older brother, like him and his friends would be listening, and like I took to it. Something about it, just the beats, man, like the ruggedness of the beats and like the samples that were used. Like I loved it. I fell in love with it. I felt like it like really like encapsulated like the whole culture, like of like the city life in the inner city and stuff. And like where I grew up, I mean, I'm not saying I grew up in in the hood, but it was a rough little neighborhood. It was like 10 minutes outside of Manhattan, in New Jersey. And I just like the whole vibe of hip hop at that time. Like it just it attracted me. And then I started like really paying attention to the lyrics and the wordplay. And I took to like lyrical MCs, not just like you know not just dudes that like like yeah, like I was into Biggie growing up, but like dudes that rhymed like multi-syllable like rhyme schemes, not just rhyming one word at the end of a bar. Multi-syllable rhyming and flow patterns. And I would start to like I really like respected that. Like that, I mean, it takes talent, it takes skill. You have to become like a wordsmith essentially to do that. So I took to artists like Big L, Cool G Rap, um, who else? Redman, I was big into, Big Punisher, all these like really lyrical MCs that put a lot of thought into every rhyme that they kick, and I studied it. I didn't just listen to it. I studied it. I was a student of hip hop, and I paid attention to like how they did it, how like what was said, how they said it, how they pronounce certain things, where they pronunciate things differently and shit. And when I was a teenager, maybe around like 15, 16, I started writing, and I knew I could do it. I was always creative, and I had like music like naturally within me, and I knew that I knew I could do hip hop. So like I just started writing, and I would like kick some shit to like me and my friends, and they were like, yo, that's actually pretty good. You wrote that? Like, and I was like a quiet dude. I mean, and at the time I smoked a lot of pot and was just quiet, lived in my own head. And so when I came out with like some like real crazy stuff, like they were like, where's that coming from?
Yeah,
You wrote that? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yo, you should record that. So I like,
that's incredible that you can see. I'm fascinated already because of the fact that you're doing that at such a young age too, at 15. And I would have definitely got along with your father, Joe, because Iron Maiden, and I was definitely into that. That was my scene. Was definitely the hard rock, metal scene. And
yeah, they're phenomenal. That's one of my favorite drummers,
yeah.
Nico
Oh,
McBrain.
exactly. Yeah. And it's really cool because, you were basically probably raised with that type of music. And then when you heard hip hop, that's what really resonated with you, and the direction that you went, which is really cool. And you're right too, because I remember hip hop when it started getting big. And I'm remembering, like, I remember bands like, geez, I'm trying to think of, like, NWA was big when
Oh
I was
yeah.
growing up and stuff like that. Like they were, and what I found fascinating about these bands was that they were telling a story and they were telling their real life what was going on around them, and it really, and that's why I think people really, at first were really shocked by it because it was real life. It wasn't like back when in the '80s and stuff like that. It was all like the glam metal scene. It was all about drinking, getting high, and doing chicks, and then it was this whole party atmosphere. And then underneath, you hear this rumbling. And I think grunge kind of went into that vein too. After like people were just sick of that kind of like that's not real life. Like I don't, people weren't feeling that way or living that way, and it was like this is not. It's kind of a lie. And then you have these bands like you're talking about that were bringing real things to the surface and
Yeah.
explain like telling people what was going on. That's amazing, and that's what I really really interesting to me.
Yeah, and being creative with it too, like like telling stories and like that's what I found like fascinating about like hip hop because it was a more of a lyrical thing, like the way they expressed themselves. I felt like you could like I took to it because I felt like you could really express the character that you are through that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
they told story like yeah, they were kicking real shit at what they were experiencing in the street and shit, but at the same time, they would tell stories, they would be silly, they would do skits like NWA, like their skits are hilarious, like no one was doing shit like that, and then Redman kind of like uh picked up off of that and like all his albums that he put out, that's one of my favorites. That's top 5 MCs for me right there. He's a Jersey dude and he every album that he put out was like a movie. He would have like an intro and then he would have like little skits in between and then he'd have one song called Superman Lover where he would like he would transform into this character and get into like a go on like a crazy adventure, and he'd get into beef with somebody, you have to got kidnapped, you have to break free, like, and he's telling a story, and then on every album it would like pick up from where he left off in the previous story of Superman Love, so like that
that's
shit, I loved it. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant, and that really made me fall in love with hip hop. And he was silly about it too, like the way he expressed his character, his charisma, his wit, and all that. And like I don't know, I just felt like that was a great way for me to like express my creativity, even like better than rock. So
yeah,
um,
yeah. I get it. I really that's really cool. And you're right. The lyrics, there's an art to it. And I was telling you right before we went live once again. I was like, as everyone knows that listens to me, I'm a rock fan, huge. But since I got into playing drums, my music taste has definitely broadened, huge. Like in the last year, it's amazing what I'm listening to now. It's like playing this instrument, which I love so much, is just opened up a whole new world, and I'm so appreciative of that. And the one thing I do like about what you're saying about is the lyrics. And I have a friend that's really good at rapping, like like doing like hip hop. It's not easy, at least for me. I can't. It's really a talent, and I've had people say like, "Oh, it doesn't sound that hard to do," and I'm like, "Well, then try it." Like I always tell people, if it's not hard, then do it, and then
it's not
tell me how
hard
it
to
goes.
do when you're doing the shit that's out there now. I mean, because it's not about lyrics anymore. I won't even call it hip hop. It's just like mumble rap garbage crap I mean it's I cannot like stomach a second of it. Like these little kids like destroyed the soul of hip hop. Like, real hip hop is in the underground. Like, you gotta search for it, but yeah,
Agreed.
it takes skill, dude. Like I said, you gotta become a wordsmith. Like people think it just, it comes easy to me because I've been doing it for a while, whatever. Like in all honesty, like yeah, like the ideas for the songs and what I want to say like will come natural to me, but how I say it and the way I word it, that shit took my whole life to craft that, to master the craft of, like learning how, because first and foremost, the message of what I put out is the most important thing, right? Like
Yes.
that to me is the most important. But at the same time, I want to be the best that ever did it. I'm not just doing it to do it and just say what I want to say. Like, I'm doing it to be the best lyricist there ever was, you know, at least one of the best, you know. So, and me growing up and studying the best that there was, like, and over the years of refining my craft and listening and you know, like, so much thought goes into that shit. And let me just put this out there. I don't write. When I was a teenager, I wrote, but then, like, very soon into writing, I found that it was easier for me, or it was more organic for me to write it in my head. I'm not saying I freestyle it. I write it in my head, and I just recite it over and over and over and over and over again until, like, I get it the way I want. So it's essentially, like, written in my head. I can't write on paper and then go stand in front of a microphone and read it off the paper. It's not like a natural feeling to me. You know what I'm saying? If it's already loaded up in my head, ready to go, then I could, you know, better express what I want to say. You know what I'm saying? And how I want to say it. So
that's insane. Oh my God. You just, okay. I'm just
yeah.
like, oh my God.
So yeah, dude, it's and I can't force it. You know, like, when I'll listen to an instrumental. If I find an instrumental I like, I'm like, all right, great. I'll throw it on, drive around, and listen to that shit for days or weeks. And if nothing comes to me, I'll just keep playing it. And then all of a sudden, something will come to me. Something like I want to say, like a phrase I want to say. And then it's almost like I write backwards. It's like, okay, this is what I want to say. I want to say it right here at this point. But what are the words that I could use to rhyme with that? You know, and then you go backwards. But being that I don't just rhyme one or two words in a bar or at the end of a phrase, I try to rhyme as many words with that phrase, multi-syllable, as I possibly could, and squeeze and cram that in there. You know what I mean? So it takes a lot of thought, you know, and every line that I drop is strategically, like, there's a science to that shit, dude. It's not, I don't use, like, any filler lines, you know, just to throw it out there. I can't do that just for my own self. Like, it's got to be the same amount of effort into not just every song, it's every line. That's why when people ask me, like, what's one of your favorite songs off your new album, like, I don't have one. Every one is equal to me because I put the same amount of effort into each one, you know, so that at the end of the day, I could look back at it and say, like, I killed every song, you know. And like I said, I'm doing it to be one of the best there ever is. Yes, the message is most important first and foremost, but I'm trying to be the most lyrical MC that there ever was. And look, I'm the least egotistical person that you'll ever come across. I'm the hardest person on them. So just like everyone else, you know, you're your worst critic.
I say that all the time about myself.
But I will say, with this album, I 100% will say it's one of the best hip hop albums ever made, period. And I don't care how egotistical that sounds. It's just, it is what it is, you know, because it's not just, it's what is being said and how it's being said. You know what I mean? No one's putting out a message like that, you know, of true freedom, of natural law, of real anarchism, you know, objective morality. Like, who's talking about that shit besides me and Diesel and, like, it really, like, a handful of people.
Yeah, there's not many. There's not many doing what you guys are doing. We need more. That's for darn sure. There's not. I'm trying to think. I've come across some older ones. I have a few friends that even I wasn't aware of some of them. I'll have to send you the links. I can't even off the top of my head because he just sent me them. And they were doing this was probably like 15 years ago. I'm sure you've heard of them because I'm sure it's somewhere along the way you've heard who I'll send you the link to, but it's really good stuff and a little bit heavier of a hip hop, like a more of a like I don't know, they got a lot, it's a heavy, I don't know if they would say married rock with it or something, but it's definitely the message is what's most important. And they're speaking about a lot of really good topics too. Like that's what they're doing. They're doing what you're doing. They're trying to bring awareness through their music, which is really cool. So
we need more people doing that.
Oh my God, do we ever? Yeah, you're so right. And that's so when you first started writing, like I'm kind of fascinated in your journey into how you got to where you are. What were your topics back then, or were you always in the mindset of writing about freedom and the stuff that you cover.
No, 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 no. I mean, like, I was always conscious of the fact that the world is like, you know, like something was very wrong, and like I always like had trouble conforming to the norms. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like,
Hmm.
so I was always very rebellious and conscious and aware that, you know, the system was bullshit, and that, you know, like the world shouldn't be this way, society shouldn't operate this way. But I wasn't on, no, you know, I didn't understand freedom and rights, and, you know, honestly, I was on some real dark shit, like horrorcore, thinking of like the craziest ways to like murder somebody, you know, pretty much, and like, you know, like ripping people's spines out of their back, and like, you know, just like, just trying to be like the craziest, darkest lyrical, you know, MC. I mean, yeah, I was a kid, you know, I was a little punk kid who
It's
smoked a
not
lot of weed,
surprising. I've heard this
you know?
from other artists. So Joe, don't I've heard this from other artists that's kind of like where they started, and then it's amazing how they evolve, you know. But at first, it's like, yeah, I was just writing about the craziest stuff at first, and you know, I get that when you're that age. I mean, when I think back, like at
Yeah, I
my,
mean,
you know, that's
especially
just
like, yeah, the MCs that I was listening to at the time, like, you know, they're like, you know, like Big L, Cool G Rap, Big Pun, like they were, you know, they were talking, they were on some kind of shit like that too. Like, you know what I mean? There's less
Mhm.
like, but being lyrical about it, it wasn't just like, you know, you know, I wasn't just talking about like you get murdering people and shit. The point was like to see how nasty, and, you know, you could be with it, how sick you could be with it, you know, and
Mhm.
how lyrical you could be with it. So I was on that. I was on that kind of dumb shit, you know, for a while, talking about shooting people, and, you know, and all that fake, you know,
Well, that's
corny,
what they were
terrible.
promoting. That's what they were promoting back then too. I go back, like I said, listening to
Absolutely.
the older earlier stuff. You know, and I was just like, wow, like, so I get it. I get why, like, how big was the hip hop underground hip hop? Like, because you were talking about how, you know, hip hop. If you want to find good hip hop, it's underground, and that's another thing that I find common with a lot of hip hop artists I talk to. There's this whole culture that's fascinating to me. Like, I don't know if it's in the rock scene. I don't know if it's the same thing that hip hop has. And I find that really fascinating that there's this, I'm sure there is in other genres of music, that there's this underground culture, but hip hop to me has always been kind of this really neat, interesting culture. Like when you have people that are freestyling and they're battle rapping, and I was talking to Diesel about this, you know, when he would just, you know, you just, to me, that's amazing that, and such a skill that you can just blindly go up and battle rap somebody or
Well, no, I'm gonna put you on to a secret. Okay, when you see these battle rappers saying that they're freestyling and it's just coming off the top of the head, it's bullshit.
oh,
They, when you do, you know, when you're an MC, you're always like throughout your day, you're always thinking of something. Like, you know, you're always thinking of rhymes and rhyme schemes and flow patterns and things to say. So especially battle rappers, and I used to do it myself. Like, I'm not necessarily a battle rapper, but I've been in a few battles like growing up, and, you know, you pre-plan like, just in case, like, say you battle like a chubby dude, you know,
yep,
like, you have things on deck in your mind ready to go, things to say, you know, so then it
that
comes
makes
off
sense.
when the time comes, you know what I'm saying? So people's mind, like people like Eminem, like if you listen to his older stuff, what the hell was it? With Scribble, I think, like he did, like, you know, back in his battle rap days, like he used to kill people, he used to slaughter people. But
Hmm.
you could tell immediately, any MC will tell immediately, yeah, that was pre thought, like it was pre, what's the word, premeditated, like he, you know,
Yeah, like, yeah.
he
Yeah.
had it ready to go, he had it on deck. Certain things, little things, you throw out as filler, to just put out there as you're trying to remember, like your other, you know, the bars that you have pre-remembered. Like, it's a skill, dude, I'm telling you, it's a difficult thing to do. It doesn't come that easily like people think. Like, you gotta like, you're constantly thinking about it. You become like, you know, you try to become like a master of the craft, like, for the, like, the real lyricists, you know, the people
Yeah,
who are really super lyrical, you know what I'm saying? Not just rhyming, like I said, one or two words and one or two syllables here and there. Like, you're trying to rhyme everything, but at the same time, make sense out of it too. It's a very difficult thing to do. It's not. It's
Oh,
not easy.
you don't have to convince me, Joe. I agree. I can't do it. I have my friend who loves hip hop, and what I've learned a lot of hip hop is from him, and he gives me like the history of it, and because that's his thing. Like I'm passionate about rock and metal. He's like that with hip hop. He grew up with it. That was his thing. So, and it's very natural to him. Like when he breaks it down to me, he's like, dude, and I'm just like, it's not. It doesn't work for me. Like it doesn't. I can't do it. And I'm sure it's because, like you said, a skill. Like anything else, you got to practice and hundreds of hours or thousands of hours. And like you said, it's something that you're always constantly like thinking about, and you're always working out in your mind and stuff. So I get it when you put that time in. But there is a skill, especially like you said, being a lyric, like really understanding language and the flow and words and how you can shape words. Like I find that fascinating too. That you can take a word but shape it to
And
make it
make it
sound.
not
Yeah,
make things rhyme that don't rhyme.
that's
Like
just so cool to me.
yeah, exactly. And that's funny. Like I said, like because people like me, I was a quiet dude. Like when I would come out with some shit, they're like, well, how do you even know those words? Like I don't know. Just like you I don't know. Like it educated me in a lot of ways. Like and it broadened my vocabulary. Like becoming a lyricist like that. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
yeah, so it
That's
is
really fascinating. Yeah. I
my
just,
whole life, bro. It's just my whole life I've been at it pretty much. Since a young teen. Doing it. So
yeah, that's a long time. That's really cool. And it shows. I mean, like, that's what I like the work you're putting in is we're seeing the results of that. And that's really cool. And, the message you're putting out there needs to be heard. I love that. I'm sure we'll get into some of that too. Definitely. I want to talk a lot about that, but just trying to get people know a little bit about who you are and where you kind of came from. And I think we're doing great at that because that people's journey, Joe, is always what fascinates me. I like to. It's so easy to talk about what's going on in your life at this moment, but I like to always hear people like how they got to where they're going. I think there's a lot of people can take a lot from hearing people's journey and struggles and stuff, and then where they came from, and that's why I hope I accomplish that when I talk to people. And so that's really interesting. So a big underground hip hop scene when you're growing up. Were you collaborating with people back then when you were writing? Like how that's the one thing I don't know. Like I know for rock bands, you kind of get a band together, you practice and then you go do bars and stuff like that. How does it work in the hip hop scene? Like are you at this time, are you trying to get a band going? All right, like see, this is where you got the kind of breakdown for me.
what do you mean? Like you mean currently, or like how I did it back then, or
But yeah, like
both?
back then, like were you in a band? Were you trying to make a band? Or
Well,
is this
no,
something
I had a group. I had
a
a
group?
group like
Okay.
my boys. Like since once they started seeing me do it, they became inspired. Like I mean, everyone like over here. That I mean, hip hop was a big deal, dude. Like in the '90s, like
Hmm.
little white kids loved that shit. Like
Hmm.
you couldn't get enough of it. And so everyone wanted to rhyme, everyone wanted to be a rapper. But like my friends, like once they saw me do it, they would try, and then I would be like, no, 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 like cross that out, say this instead, put that there. So I would help them, and they actually became pretty good, like so I had a little group. It was called Burn Squad because we used to smoke a ton of weed at the time. So
Good name.
I don't know, I just came up with that, and I was like, yeah, that's what we're going with. So it was Burn Squad. It was like me and like four of my other friends, and we had a little group, and I worked. I dropped out of school when I was 16.
Hmm.
Hated it from day one, dude. So as soon as I was quote unquote legally able to leave, I did, and I worked, a ton of different jobs, but like I saved up the money. What happened was like I wound up hooking up with a dude in town. He was an older cat, and he had a little studio in his house. He heard me rhyming one day, like at a park, and then he was like, "Yo, come back to my house right now. Go lay that down. I got a studio." I'm like, "Wow!" I was so excited.
Yeah,
Went
yeah.
in, went in his house. He had like a little keyboard with like a 4-track tape recorder, microphone setup, but it was like perfect. Like it just what you needed, just whatever, just to fuck around. Oh, sorry. No, we're not supposed to drop any
Well, that's the
F-bombs.
first one. That's not, you're doing awesome, actually.
Yeah, I know. I got to pat myself on the back here because I'm usually pretty damn bad with it. I got to say, and it's not. I'm not proud of it, but sorry about that.
You're doing awesome, Joe. Awesome.
Well, thank you. But yeah, man. So I saw what he had, and I'm like, he was a crackhead, honestly. And I sometimes I would go there and knock on the door, and he would be doing his thing. Oh, I'll come back, and I'm like, oh, screw this, dude. I saw what he had, and I'm like, I could do this, you know.
Right,
So I
yeah.
saved up. I bought myself a keyboard, an 8-track digital recorder, a microphone, and I set myself up in my room at my house. And then I just had my boys come up by my house, and we just would get high and just record song after song. I mean, hundreds of songs, man. And it's such a shame because I have them all on CDs and they're all like destroyed, they're scratched to hell. And and you know, it kills me because I would love to throw them on and at least put the, you know, get them on a computer, but I can't. They're all ruined. But
That's
so that's what I
incredible.
did that's what I did at the time. I had a little group, and like we had like a little name, you know, going around the, you know, around the town or whatever. And but you know, I don't want to sound like egotistical again, but you know, I was the one, you know, the best one out of the group. And
Mhm.
so like I can they fell off by the wayside, and I just continued to do my thing. And I honestly I did it until like my early 20s, and then I saw the direction like the hip hop was heading, and it started to become like really corny, dude. And this is when like 50 Cent just came out, Lil Wayne was becoming big, early 2000s, and I was like,
Right.
it stopped being about lyrics, you know. It stopped being about lyricism. It was there, no one was appreciating, no one wanted to hear someone coming on, you know, and rapping all crazy and multi-syllable flow patterns and shit. They want to hear like a catchy beat with a catchy chorus, something that girls could shake their ass to. And you know, and that it became like poppy mainstream like garbage, you know. And it turned me off. I'm like, all right, you know what, I threw my hands up and like walked away from it. And I actually started getting into rock. I took on the drums, and I had two of my like really good friends who were brothers. One was a guitar player, one was a bass player. We put together like a little band. We were trying to do something, and you know, we were practicing, we were recording. That never took off. So I did that for a couple of years. And then once I started to wake up to things, you know, shit that was going on, you know, I decided to like, I'm like, all right, like what I need to, you know, you just like you and everyone else on the network, you know, like you know, like once you take in a certain amount of knowledge of things that are going on and what we could actually do about it, you realize you have a moral obligation to do something, you know, like
Yes.
regardless if you feel it's going to be effective or not. You can't just be silent, you know, knowing what you have come to know. You're like, I need to not just talk about this to my family or friends who really just don't want to hear it, you know, like I need to put this out there to like a wider audience. So I figured like the most effective way for me to put it out would be to use my talent, like for, you know, a good cause. So I got back into rapping. I'm like, I'm going to put it out through my music. So
That's
I got
amazing.
back into it, and that's when I, you know, back in like what, 2019, 18, 19, I dropped Liberty or Death. That it was like a 5-track EP that I put out. And then to answer your question about collabs, like in when the Scamdemic popped off, Mark Devlin had me on his podcast for his birthday, and this was like in the height of the
Yeah.
COVID hysteria bullshit. And he had me and Diesel on. He said we were his favorite MCs, which I was on. Shout out to Mark Devlin. I love that dude.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love, yeah.
And so he hooked me. He's, you know, he introduced me to Diesel. We were on his podcast for his birthday, and then me and Diesel hit it off and became like best friends, like immediately, you know. And so that, and then that was it from 2020 on. You know, we were collaborating like crazy. And you know, it's crazy, like technology, how it's a double-edged sword. Like, you know, like it could be used for such like you know, positive things and be so effective in putting the truth out. Like he's in Montenegro, you know, I'm in
Oh
New
yeah.
Jersey, and we're
Yep.
making masterpieces together. You know what I mean? Like he's sending me vocal files. I mix it, you know, I mix it down, or he'll mix it down, and we, you know, like, and the way we collaborate with each other, really not even much is said. You know, he'll have an idea for a song, or I'll have an idea for a song, and we'll just tell her, like, you know, he was like, here, this is I got an instrumental from one of my boys. I want to talk about natural law. I'm actually going to call this one Natural Law. All right, and just, you know, you go second. My verse is already on there. I'm going to send it to you. Boom. Okay. And then sometimes, like, we just add little things in. Like he might sing in the beginning of a chorus that we didn't even discuss. He'll just add it and send it to me. What do you think of that? I'm like, yo, I love it. Keep that in there, you know. And then, you know, you kind of just go back and forth with
That's
it. But
amazing.
it's it's very natural between me and him, man. Like the energy is just perfect,
Oh, you
dude.
can feel it. Yeah, you can feel it. And you answered my question because I was going to ask you eventually how you met Diesel. So that's really cool that you touched on that, Mark Devlin. Absolutely. I've interviewed him. Great. Great. Yeah. I mean,
Great guy, man.
oh my
Great guy.
God, yeah. Like people that really care and inspire me and stuff like that. And I just, yeah. And I keep telling people too, Joe, I always tell people like, you have to find what you're good at because I fully believe everybody has a talent that they're really good at. And maybe they haven't discovered it fully yet, but they don't, most people know that they have a good talent. And I always tell people like, find a way to get the message out in your own unique way,
Yes.
whether it's
You don't
artwork.
have to do a podcast. You don't have to do a presentation. Like, what are you good at? What do you love doing? Like, you love drawing? Like, look at David D's, you know, like these
Yep.
illustrations, like that. It's picture paints 1,000 words. Look at the images like he puts out. They're amazing. And it says
Yep.
so much. It's so effective. You know, it goes right
Yep.
to your subconscious and your conscious mind, and you take in, like, and you know, especially when it's drawn up like that, like when he draws up a scene of the bankers, and you know, it was, you know, with the all-seeing eye in the back, like it paint, like it makes you see, like, holy shit, it really is like that. You know, these people are really evil like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
encapsulates, you know, what people think about the system and shit. But yeah, like in your own creative way. Like I said, don't have to be a podcast. Like, what do you, if you like art, you like music, you
I've
know,
seen people do it with dancing. Like I've seen a lady that does incredible dancing and stuff like that, and she tries to put the message out in her movements, and
that's
it
great.
works. It works. And I mean, I know people that write. There's a couple. There's a Sarah Cross has a host here. She's a host here on Rev Radio and does her own show, Crosstalk. She writes about these things. She's a great writer. So I mean, yeah. There and I always tell people that too. Maybe you don't want to. Some people don't want to be on camera. Some people don't want to do a podcast or presentations. I tried a presentation. Glad I did it. Not really excited to do another one. It's kind of not my thing, but I
I'm
did
with
it and I
I'm
tried
with
at least. I always tell people you got to at least try. And then what's the worst that's going to happen? You don't like it. And then you just don't do it again, or
Don't
you
do
try
it.
it at a later date, but at least try. And so I'm glad that, that you and people like you and Diesel and that are doing it through this music, which is what you love doing. And I'm really glad that you kind of brought up the how you can do it from home. Like technology, like you said, is definitely a double-edged sword. I get into this talk a lot with musicians. I'm just like, what do you guys think of this technology thing? And I'm glad you kind of broke that down because but I didn't, that's really cool that you can have a studio in your home and do that this way, and you can collaborate from people across the world. Like it's definitely a plus. Um, how so I'm just curious when you with technology, what do you think is the downside to the technology? Like we're talking about how great it is to be able to collaborate, but do you think there's something that we're sacrificing with the technology?
for sure. Your health, your
Oh,
mental
okay,
health.
there you
I
go.
mean, because it's like, ha- look at how it's operated. Like what's running it. Like the frequencies that are coming off of it. Like that's terrible. It's no good for you. You know what I mean? Like especially with 5G now, which is a
Hmm.
totally different signal and frequency range than 3G and 4G. I try to explain this to people. This is military technology. This is microwave technology. Like how the 3G, 4G cell towers, like their frequency band like expands outward, like, you know, to feed like the phones and whatnot. This is directed energy, you know, like 5G is directed energy. So if you're holding your phone, you know, to your ear, and there's a friggin' 5G tower, you know, next to you down the street, it's good. That signal's getting beamed through your head. You know what I mean? To the phone. Directed energy, a direct microwave frequency, like straight through your dome, you know,
Yep.
to the phone. Like, I mean, we think that's good, you know, and this is untested technology. And guess who signed off on it? Mr. Trump, you know, that everyone's thinks is the savior. Guy signed off on untested 5G, which we were screaming about in the whatever you want to call it, truth community, conspiracy community. Before they rolled it out, like, look at this kind of technology that they're getting, that they're setting up everywhere. You know, like these towers. Then they have smaller carrier towers to piggyback the signals. Like, and this is technology that is used by the military. Like they could beam voices into your head. I mean, in the what was it in the Iraq War in Desert Storm?
Yep.
They freaking beamed the voice of Allah in the Iraqi soldiers' heads and told them to lay down their weapons and step forward to the United States military, and then got firebombed. This
Yep.
is the technology that we're using, you know, that the government, the world governments are in control of. You know,
Yeah,
it's
and we're being
for
bathed in this. We're
yup,
being
yup.
oh, it's like yeah, I've talked. You're so right, Joe. Like I can't wait till the second hour. When we got a break coming up in about 5 minutes, so we got 5 minutes for a break. But please stick around, guys, because we will have Joe back, of course, for the second hour, which I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of these topics and also his new album. I want to make sure I give him lots of time to talk about it. Maybe listen to one of his songs I want to play. I was telling Joe my favorite song on the album is "I Fought for You." For some reason it resonates with me, and I want to play it for you guys during this show. So if any of the radio owners, administrators are listening, this is the artist. I have his permission to play it. He's right here, so I'll play it all the way through for you guys. And I think you're going to really. It's a really good song. Like I really like it. So I want to ask you about that. But you bring up great points. Like this fight, like we're getting cooked in these frequencies, Joe. And it's. I've talked to people that are so susceptible to it and sensitive, and we're just who knows the health effects. And I know that you had so maybe you can talk about in the second hour. You know, you had a health scare that you went through, and it's crazy. Like then we get in the medical system out. Like I rant about that constantly, Joe, about how
That's
messed.
going to be hard to talk about without dropping any f bombs. I'm going to be honest with you, dude,
I
because like
know. I'm
I
hoping
have
you get.
such disdain for the medical establishment that it's like, and I did before I got sick. I mean, but after really going through it, like, let me just be as blunt as I could. These people do not know shit. They do not know shit. Your health is in your hands. The end. The end. You're on your own. Do not rely. Yeah, stitch, chop, and fuck and medicate to just, you know, treat the symptom. That's about all they could do. You know,
That's what I
anything
say.
else,
Yep.
got any like real serious shit going on, you got to take care of yourself. You're on your own, you know.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I've
yeah,
said
like
that.
to
Yeah.
just to finish with the technology. I mean, you know, they you know, that's used for like sound cannons from the police. You know, and they disperse for crowd dispersal. This is, you know, this is microwave, millimeter waves. You know, and then look, I mean, all the smart technology that's all over people. It's in the house. The routers, the computers, the phones, the fridges, the microwaves. I mean, and the Fitbits, you know, on the wrist, the wearables, and you know, I mean, it's bad. And then, you know, it could be technology is, you know, used in a negative way when people don't do anything positive with it, when they don't put out the great work and try to wake people up. You know, like they're just doom scrolling and surfing through social media just mindlessly, like looking at cat memes and all this other bullshit, like irrelevant crap,
Yep.
like,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying, like melting their minds like that. It's so, and it could be a terrible thing, and especially the control of information, you know, like how these people are shutting down free speech everywhere. And like
Yep.
you said in the intro, dude, like, yeah, they're coming for you too. eventually.
Oh, it's only a matter. Yeah, it's only a matter of time. I'm under no illusion, Joe, that we're untouchable here. We're very quickly they could come after any of us and shut us down. And that's why I tell people you have to fight for what you value, and sometimes you got to get involved. I mean, it's great to be educated and know what's going on around the world and understand. You have a good have a good understanding. A lot of people, that's where they stop, is they're always taking in this information, but you have to put it back out to other people, because, and I'm sure we could talk about this in the second hour. Like, that's how I found out about all of this stuff, is that somebody cared enough to put the content out there for me to find and then learn about these things. And so that's where I think a lot of people stop, is that as they're taking in all this information, but they're not putting it back out in their own unique way.
What's that saying? To know and not to do is not to know.
There you go. Yeah,
that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, and that's where, unfortunately, the freedom movement is, like, I like the way you said, kind of whatever you want to call it, freedom movement, if there even really is one, conspiracy, these groups. That's where I think a lot of them fall short, is that they're not putting the content back out there. And
no, they don't really have true care, and they don't really have the balls, to be honest with you. If you're just going to be 100% real, like, they don't have the courage to put their face out there, to put their real name out there. They just troll in the comment sections and like talk shit to people about the things, like the littlest thing they think someone got wrong, who actually had the courage to put their face out there and speak out against the system.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
good point. Okay, Joe, we got a break. 1 second. Hold that thought.
Go ahead.
Just mute up there, buddy. And then, like I said, we got a 5-minute break here, guys. So please stick around. We got Joe Murray here. He will be back hour 2. I'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Tune in to the Family Industrial Complex podcast here on Revolution Radio, Studio B, every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Get fit, empowered, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Interrupt your normally scheduled programming to bring you this important broadcasting announcement. Now is the time to explore your greatest potential, embracing truth, health, and wellness while discarding the system and exposing its corruption. Experience true freedom every Saturday night between 6 and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live from Studio B. It's the Jonathan Wright Show. Find it right here at revolution.radio.
Welcome to Coffee Rants with Dan. I am the spiritual anarchist, Dan Arnold, your host. Tune in for what's really happening every Thursday. That's Thursday at 9 a.m. in Studio A on Revolution Radio. They keep us in fear to manipulate us. They want us ignorant so we're easier to enslave. They make us murder one another so they don't have to do it themselves. Only you can break their mind control by healing the contradictions within your belief systems that allow you to accept their lies in the first place. The time has come for us to remember our divinity, who we really are, to return to what we are meant to be, a service to others, to return to nature, and to reclaim our birthright, that which is freedom. The truth will sound belligerent because it is in direct opposition to lies. So get angry, because anger is sacred, and together we can unite and rise. Rise from this darkness. Humanity, assemble.
Fire. Crosstalk with Sarah Cross, a place for radio wanderers to learn about the highest laws and other related topics, with the occasional stroll through more relaxed notions. Every Wednesday, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern, or 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Crosstalk with Sarah Cross, Studio A on Revolution Radio.
I will defend myself against their tyranny. Number 3 is my radio broadcast. I'm squarely in front of the public all the time, and they all know what's going on.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on the means for expanding its sphere of influence.
Hello, my name is John Wayne, and I do a broadcast here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, called The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
Freedom and fear are at war.
And folks, I assure you, we are in Defense Condition 1, as we journey perilously through this paradigm that we currently reside in. And I ask that you join me every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
We'll never surrender.
The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite, surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing, in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fan. The lineup consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marsal vanes, so fitted to the ambifacient lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal lotus-o-deltoid type, placed in panendermic semi-boloid slots of the stator, every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible tremie pipe to the differential girdle spring on the up end of the gram meters.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio, taking the confusion out of transmutated lunar girdle springs for 4 years and running. Revolution Radio, the #1 listener-supported alternative media radio on the planet. All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Welcome back, everybody. There you go. I was not lying. It was just a short little break. I hope everyone is back here tuning in for hour 2. I have a great guest here, my friend Joe Murray, who is definitely an amazing hip-hop artist. He is out there doing the great work with his music. He is out there fighting for freedom, for truth, for exposing what is going on and the lies that are being told, and it's amazing. And we were saying, both Joe and I at the first hour, find your unique way to get the message out there. And everybody's good at something. Take that creative energy that you have at what you love doing, what you're good at doing, and get the message out there, because this is the time. I really think that this is going to matter. It's so important right now because things are changing so quickly. And it kind of gave me hope I love hearing the bumpers during the break, because it just shows that all of the hosts, they're so interested in fighting for truth and for freedom, and they care. That this is what they're doing. They're trying to help people in showing the lies and all the freedom they're taking away from us. They're exposing that and bringing it forward to people, because we are living under such deception that they put upon us every day through social media. And we're just in this fight, and freedom of speech is on the chopping block, definitely, and we are losing it. As Joe said the first hour, we are losing it, and I say it every week too. We're losing it bit by bit. It doesn't happen in one big thing, like big chunk at once. Usually it's how do they get away with doing what they do, inch by inch, and we keep backing up just a little bit, and next thing you know, you're wondering how we got to where we are today. That's how we got here, is by people not standing up and not making their voices heard. So this is a great discussion. I want to welcome Joe back for hour 2. This is an amazing conversation, and I'm so glad that we kind of got to know you in the first hour, Joe. That's fascinating stuff, and I really appreciate you putting the music out there and really fighting for freedom. That's what this is. This fight is, and people need to get involved. We were kind of talking about at the end of the first hour that a lot of people, I think, in these communities, in the truth communities, are taking in this information, but they're not putting it back out there. And as you were saying, that's so important.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And you know, like a lot of people, like even the, you know, the normies, if you want to call them that, people that you interact with, you know, in your own personal life on a daily basis, like when you try to put them on to what's going on and try to explain to them like rights and natural law, like, you know, they'll get it, but they feel powerless. You know what I mean? They're like, but yeah, but what can I do about anything? And that it just shows the number that's been done on the human brain. Like they really got people to feel like little old nothings, you know, with no power, can't do anything about anything. So they just, which is even worse to me, because like you're gonna acknowledge that something to this magnitude is going on, like, you know, that we're being controlled by psychopaths and they have an agenda for total enslavement, you know, the total enslavement of humanity, and you're gonna throw your hands up and say, well, what can I do about it? About like something. You just, so you're gonna admit you're a slave and you're okay with that? You're just going to continue to just get up every day and run on a hamster wheel and like not do anything? You know what I mean? Like just a little pushback. I mean, talk about it at least at your job or when you're out, you know, do something, you know, like that's what blows my mind, you know, when it comes down to it, like how powerless like people feel, you know. But in reality, it's like, well, who else do you think has the power to do anything? Like, it's people. It's just people. We're up against just people. Well, honestly, I don't truly believe that. I honestly am convinced it is coming from somewhere else ultimately. But what, you know, what we're dealing with in government, I mean, it's just people. You know, these are just dumb shitheads that in suits that believe they have authority over you, that believe they have the right to tell you what you can and can't do, what you can and can't own, where you can and can't go. You know,
We can and can't talk about, which it just gets frustrating. It just gets frustrating, and I hear you. It just that you're exactly right. I think we all hear that. Like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm one person. I can't even balance my checkbook. How am I supposed to change things? And I'm like, don't you realize? Do you ever open a history book? Most great things that have happened start with an idea and usually one person, and that's the power we have.
Yeah, I try to explain to them, like, well, I'll look into, like, here, I'll share the video with like the kid I work with, a helper, you know, of a video that someone put out about me, how I impacted their life, which honestly like brought tears to my eyes. Like, here I am, some little punk from Lodi, New Jersey, you know, ex-druggie. I'm influencing people. I'm inspiring people. Like, the dude put out a video talking about my new album and how like I impacted his life and inspired him during the scamdemic to step up and like start a podcast. The guy wrote multiple books since 2020. He put out there, and I'm like, here's what I did. Even if it's just one person, like, you know, which I know it's more than one person, but I affected people in my family, this person here, like, so you could do the same. Like, so if enough people begin to do that, what do you think is going to happen, dude? Change is inevitable. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you're full of power.
I totally agree. And that's amazing. Like, even if you just change, I always say, if I can affect one person, that's good enough for me. It really is. I mean, I'm good with that. I mean, if I could, that's good enough for me. And I hope it's more. I hope I try to inspire people and do that the best I can and tell people, like, you got to get involved. So yeah, you have more. I always tell people you have way more power than you think. And they fear that so much. For people to realize that. It's why they have all the distractions in place. They have to keep you in the fear state. You're always scared. You're always worried about something that's coming down. There's always a fear bullet in the chamber. So you never get used to that. They're always like, it's one thing after another, like, you know, and especially during the pandemic, that was a big eye opener for me, as I keep telling people on radio here. Like that was really when I was like, wow, it's way worse than I even thought. I knew it was bad.
Yep.
I didn't know it was this bad. And then so that's what got me off my ass doing a show. I was like, okay, I got to do something because this is craziness. And then so yeah, we have so much power, and that's why, as I just said, why all the distractions are there. They want to keep people distracted because you find that true spark in all of us. They fear it. They absolutely, I know they do.
That's the basis to the whole conspiracy, dude. Like, like David Icke has been saying for over 30 years, like the real conspiracy is suppressing who and what we truly are, which is, what people call the creator. Like, that's a tough pill for people to swallow. Like, we're it. There is nothing external from us. Nothing is external is going to come and save you. I don't care what you believe, how hard you get on your hands and knees and pray to something outside of you. Nothing and no one is coming to save you or us. It is you. It's in like every movie throughout history is like put that message out. It's like, oh, it was in me the whole time. Yeah, that's it. That's it. You're the answer. You are an expression. As hard as it is for people to fathom this, you are an expression of the creator. You're a unique expression of what people call God. It's God experiencing itself in all these different life forms from all these different perspectives, right? And you have that divine spark within you. Are that divine spark? It's not even within you. It is you. That's what you actually are. This body is illusory. It's not real. It's not real. This reality ain't real. It's a simulation. I don't give a shit what people think about that either, who haven't done their homework and looked into quantum physics. Scientifically proven. It's not even a debatable thing. And it becomes common sense once you really begin to begin to understand reality and just look at yourself. Look how you're looking down at your hands and like how you're in a virtual reality. You're in a simulation. It's not real. Like the body is illusory. It's just an avatar for you, for what you actually are. You don't have to try to become something. You are already it. You just forgot. You've just been suckered into believing you're the body. You are what you think and feel and are experiencing. No, it's not. It's just an avatar. This is like, the World of Warcraft. You play an avatar. You tell it to move its hand, it moves its hand. Tell it to jump, it jumps. But it's not a simulation in which that you could like put it on pause and then go eat a sandwich. You're immersed in it. Like you're fully immersed into this reality. The body is just a vehicle that is being used to interact in this reality. And I know that sounds far out to people. Well, I spent the past 17 years of my life obsessively researching this, speaking to quantum physicists. I've interviewed a ex-NASA physicist / quantum physicist, Thomas Campbell. Well, I don't necessarily agree with everything the guy says, but this is a guy who studied consciousness, astral projection, outer body experiences for 40 plus years. Like, so you're going to tell this guy, no, he's bugging. He don't know what he's talking about. This is real. This is solid. You are the body. Like, I don't think so. I think I'll take it from someone who's actually like studied the shit and puts it in a way that I can understand. And plus the other knowledge that I've taken in, I can put two and two together and be like, yeah, this is what makes sense and this is what doesn't. But that is the basis of the whole conspiracy, is suppressing who and what we really are. That's like exactly what you said. That's what all the distractions are about. So all the poisoning is about. It's to just keep you immersed, is distracted and just immersed in the 5 sense reality, believing like this is it, stuck in your feelings and your emotions and, believing that you are friggin' Joe Schmo who's a plumber and this is your duty here. And, and we've been suckered. We've been bamboozled. And honestly, I might be going all over the place with this, but over the past 2 years, my perspective on what this place actually is like changed. I am now, and I can't prove it, 100%, but I am convinced that this is a prison simulation. I don't believe this was created by the creator, honestly. I think that we've been, and again, I don't give a shit how far out this sounds. I could only go off of my own personal experiences and my own personal knowledge. I totally subscribe to what David Icke has been putting out like over the past couple of years, which I really didn't. Like, you know, I love David Icke and I've spoken to him personally. I think he's a phenomenal warrior for freedom, and he's put out some like probably one of the greatest like libraries of work like ever put out by any human being. But I honestly have subscribed to like his theory on what this place is over the past 2 years, especially going through what I went through, suffering the way I did and still do. And then just really thinking about things. I believe like this is a prison simulation, dude. Like this was hijacked. Like there was a prime reality, a prime earth kind of thing. And this is like the Gnostics say, this is a bad copy of what prime earth or this prime realm was, you know. And that new age shit that people say like, oh, evil can't create, it can only take and invert. Like, yeah, that's true to an extent, but that don't mean like these beings, these entities or whatever's running this shit like can't create. Or look at the phenomenal job they've done. Look at the system that they superimposed over us, like the fictitious legal system and all the shit that they do. It's genius. You have to step back and marvel at that shit. And you know, when you're in your darkest hour, like especially as like a musician or an artist, you come up with the best shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that whole theory of like evil can't create, that's bullshit to me now. Like, of course it can. So I'm convinced
that makes sense.
like, I'm sorry.
I was gonna go ahead. I was saying I totally agree. It makes sense. Yeah, I talked about this.
I'm convinced that our souls have been suckered somehow to come here, and like that reincarnation shit is a trap. This is, and I think like the whole thing is bullshit. Everything in this reality is bullshit, and it's a trap, you know. And honestly, I always try to be as optimistic as I possibly could. I always try to leave people with like a little bit of hope that they could use as fuel to feed off of and keep fighting. But honestly, I don't even at this point, like, what do we do? You know, there was like a glimmer of hope in the beginning of the scamdemic or mid-scamdemic where like enough people got affected on a personal level that it shook them to their core.
Yep.
That they decided to like, okay, people in like certain geographical areas stood up in decent numbers and just took to the streets because they don't know what else to do. Even though I don't agree with protesting, because it's just acknowledging these people as your masters and telling them not to whip you as hard and just go back to the way you used to whip us. I was comfortable that way. You know, like you're acknowledging, you're legitimizing their system by protesting and just begging them to do something. You know what I mean? To lighten up their beating on you. But at least it was something, because before that we weren't doing shit. So I gained, as bad as it was, I gained like a little hope. I'm like, oh shit. Okay, if there was ever a time that we were going to reach people with the message of like real freedom and rights, and like now's the time, if there was ever a time for people like me, you, Diesel, and other people on the network to like to put this message out there. And so I did. I got on it relentlessly. I started 2 podcasts, a solo one and one with Ivan Oyola. I did multiple mad interviews, ton of music videos, a conference, a presentation, and everything just went back to shit. People fell back to sleep like hardcore, because now everyone just like the good portion of people just shifted to the right and think that they're awake now. You know, everyone's on the Trump. They're pulled back into politics like even more hardcore now. Being deceived by the whole Trump bullshit, the whole Trump movement. And it's such a psyop, Trojan horse. And it's unbelievable how people don't see this shit. You know, like that. This is a guy who's literally pushing globalism, the North American Union that people like, again, David Icke have been calling out for friggin' 30 years. You know, merging Canada and the United States, Mexico, Greenland. Why? It's just a coincidence this guy's talking about it now. He's got Elon Musk on board, who's a transhumanist, futurist, you know, multi-billionaire, you know, socialist, pushing UBI, universal basic income, brain implants, friggin' electric cars, storage container size smart homes, a carbon tax. What's wrong with you people? Like, and you're not seeing this? just because he's on the Trump train, it's just like, okay, we're cheerleading for it now. But if it wasn't that way, if it was the left, if it was some multi-billionaire, nerd on the left pushing this shit, they would at least be pushing back online, because they're not going to do anything physically, the right.
Right.
They're just a bunch of shit talkers. But point being is, like, bro, honestly, at the end of the day, like, even if we do unite on natural law principles, enough of us, like, what I feel like we would win at that point, if enough people stop complying and take a stand. But maybe the simulation just gets reset at that point, and that's it. Like, honestly, like, my whole perspective on this place, like, really got warped, bro, after the hell that I went through, and after being on the sideline for 2 years and, like, really observing people, human consciousness from a distance, and the whole political dog and pony show, bro, it is so surreal to me. I really question that if the majority of people are even real. I don't care how far out this even sounds, bro. Like the NPC shit, if it is a simulation, which we could pretty much prove this is an illusory, like, like I said, through quantum physics, then there has to be non-player characters. So I honestly, because there's no way. I understand, like, the number that could be done on the human mind through psychology, especially dark psychology, like these people are doing. But
right.
To this extent, really, you have the majority of the world in the palm of your hands. These people are like unbelievably dumb, unacceptably dumb, and mind control. Like, I really, like, I've come to feel like there's only really like a relative handful of like real people with like souls that are in this shit, that, and the rest aren't even real. It's just like it's a game. Yeah. And to see, like, if we could do something about it, like, if the real ones could actually, like, it's like a game to these people or these entities. It might sound far out to you, bro, but honestly,
it doesn't
like,
sound, no.
my whole shit changed.
Yeah, I talk about this all the time. We talk about this, me and Jonathan, on our Thursday show, Jonathan, right? So we have a show that we do together, and on Thursdays, and we get into a lot of this about what you're talking about. So I don't think you're far off the mark on a lot of things, and I do agree with you about COVID. I think that was our moment, and I try to remind people all the time how quickly people forget, and that's what drives me crazy. And I'm glad you brought that up, Joe, because you're like, we had that moment where people really, I think, saw for a moment just how bad the system can take over. And like, I tell people all the time, and I feel like a broken record when I say this, but they shut the world down. Like, this wasn't a small thing they did, and they didn't do it for a weekend or a day. They did it for months. Like, they shut the world down, and people's lives are destroyed. Businesses, family businesses that have been hundreds and hundreds of years old, or whatever, and generations in the family gone. People's houses gone, jobs gone, and nobody's accountable. Nobody's taking any responsibility for what they've done, and nobody's putting their feet to the fire. And then we, like you said, go back to sleep, and then we're on to the next thing, which is the politics, which I've been ranting about this too. I know people that know better. They know better, and they're still on the politic train. So what is going on? Like, it's something crazy.
It went harder into statism, dude. Like, they went back to sleep and like back into REM sleep. Like,
yep.
And like you said, no one's held accountable. These people destroyed our lives financially, health-wise. Like, mad people died from the shot, dude. Like, this dude Trump ain't hold, like, no one's gonna like hold this dude accountable. Like, he's on Joe Rogan's show. Like, he didn't even bring that shit up. Like, that's not a small issue, dude. Like, do you understand? Like, we know people who died from the shit or got maimed from it. People were dropping on live TV. Athletes in the prime of their, in the prime of their life, the best shape of their life, dropping on, on a soccer field or on a basketball court. News presenters, like, or what we call news, like collapsing. And this guy is still out there bragging that he's the godfather of the shot, and no one says, nobody knows. But you know what it is, dude? He rolled out the good shot that wasn't poisonous, right? And so all his followers knew not to take it. That's the excuse these people. It is amazing, dude. It's like, you bring that up to them, it's like they forgot about it. Like, yo, the guy's still bragging about it. He's still bragging about the shit.
Yep.
You know, no accountability. Fauci's still out. You know, Gates, like all these people who destroyed your life, destroyed your livelihood, put us into like hyperinflation. You know, are still out and about and on to the next thing now, starting World War III, flying drones, you know what I mean? Distracting you with like SUV-sized drones in New Jersey and all this other bullshit. Like, you know, yo, it's such a circus that like, I really question, like, what is the goddamn point at this point? Like, it's so far gone. It's so far gone. Dude, I can't even say the word, but yeah, we're effed. And I never talk like that. I always try to be positive and say, yeah, listen, anything is possible. We could still turn it around. I honestly, Rick, I don't see that happening, bro.
You think
I don't
yeah.
see it.
I've had talks. I've been I've said this a lot of times on the air too. I go through moments exactly like you're saying, Joe, like where I'm like, are we so far gone that there's no, like, are we that far over the cliff? Like there's no pumping the brakes. We're in free fall and going to the cliff, you know, bottom of the cliff. And I teeter with that because I'm like you. I want to believe we can pull ourselves out of this, but you know, show me some evidence that we are. You know, and I'm not saying that there's not people doing good things and stuff, like there's not good going on. I've never said that, but I'm saying in the whole grand scheme of things, in the aggregate of the world, we're not seeing it. If we did, we wouldn't be seeing what's going on. We would see a change. We would see a positive change, and we're not. We're just seeing it getting worse. You know?
You just got to ask yourself, like to me, like I woke up, like I really began to see things for what they are back in 2008. Okay.
And what started you on that? Like, I was going to ask you this, like, what got you on this path? Like, did you find a video? Did something just recommended?
Yes. Like I said, I was always conscious of the fact that something was wrong. I always felt it in my core, and my brother did too. Which, shout out to my brother if he's listening, by the way. Shout out to Jim Murray.
Hey, Jim.
Right there. Yo, that's the only dude besides Diesel that I could get into like amazing conversations with, like, and talk about all this shit where we're on the phone for hours, like figuring it all out. But if anybody embodies an anarchist, living an anarchist lifestyle, is that dude right there. That's my brother. Honestly, even more than I do. You know,
awesome. Yeah.
So he's a good representative of what it means to be a true anarchist, actually embodying that shit.
Awesome.
But we always felt like something was wrong. Like, nothing. We always were very rebellious, you know, against authority figures, and you know, like we always had trouble conforming, and you know, we knew something was wrong, just couldn't put it into perspective, like what it was exactly. But not, you know, world just didn't make sense to me growing up. Like, I would always like sit back and observe people talking, like the adults talking when I was a kid, and like listen to them talk about like irrelevant, like what I thought was like irrelevant, not like, all right, you're talking about sports, the weather, like what. I always felt like I wanted a deeper understanding of things. I wanted deep conversations. I wanted to talk about, well, where the frig are we? Like, what else is out there? Like, are we in an infinite plane? Like, you know what I mean? Like, conversations like that always intrigued me. I never was into like small talk, to the point that I thought like something was wrong with me because I couldn't make small talk. Like, I wasn't on that kind of shit. I was always like in my own head thinking of like crazy shit, like out of the box thinking, trying to figure out what life was about. You know what I mean? So I was always on to something. And then in 2008, I had an apartment with one of my boys, and he came home from work one day with Zeitgeist, the first Zeitgeist.
Wow.
And I don't agree with everything the producer Peter Joseph has to say. He's like a socialist in disguise. But let me tell you something, that first Zeitgeist documentary was excellent, and it's responsible for waking a ton of people up. And, you know, in the beginning, it gets into the origins of Christianity. You know, it shows like how it's like sun worship and all these deities like that predated Christ have the exact same stories, hundreds, you know, like that predate the fake Christian story of Christ. You know, died, born of a virgin birth, died, had 12 disciples, died, resurrected in 3 days. Like, Horus, Krishna, like all these names that predated, and that like hit me hard because I was brought up like a Roman Catholic, would go to church every Sunday, you know, and what my mother, which we were miserable. Me and my brother would be fighting each other in the pews, and like, you know, I have to be taken out. Like, we hate it, and it just gave you like a bad like vibe, like a really down, you know, negative vibe when you left there. Everyone was miserable, so I never like bought into that shit though. But I was afraid to question it, you know, because you feel like you're going to be punished somehow spiritually for thinking like, well, wait a minute, was there no Christ? Like, is he did not the Son of God? You know what I mean? You think like God is going to smite you from the heavens, like, you know. So that was a tough pill to swallow, and I ignored that shit. I just like pushed that shit to the side, and then they got into 9/11 and showed how that was like the most blatant false flag next to COVID like there ever was, and how ridiculous the official narrative actually was, and they really picked it apart. And I was like, of course. How do you explain that? Like, with the evidence provided, like, there's no way you could justify what was just put forth and try to say, no, it's what the government told you it was. No way. It's a fairy tale, an absolute fairy tale.
Yep.
And then they got into like the Federal Reserve, chips under the skin, the RFID chip. Then like, I was like, oh man, this makes sense to me. Like, I get it now. This is why people believe certain things and they behave certain ways. This is why society is operating this way. This is why the news is put out this way. This is why they want you to believe this and believe that. And like, it blew my mind to the point where like it lit a fire within me. And I was like, I need to know everything. I need to know what the hell is going on. If we were lied to about all this shit, like, what else have we been lied to about? How far back does this shit really go? Like, you know, and like, who or what is ultimately like running this shit? Because this does not seem human to me at all. So I became absolutely obsessed with researching, and I went down every single rabbit hole known to man, and then some. You know, you go into like ancient history and how they built the pyramids, all these different theories, the reset theories, and the ET rabbit hole, the Palladians and the Andromedans, the reptilians, you know, all that shit, the Galactic Federation, all that crap.
I went down all of those whole rabbit holes too. Oh my, it just cascades. Yeah. It just cascades, and then somehow I found Mark Passio's. I remember it, like I always tell people, it was either his natural law seminar or his cosmic abandonment presentation. It was one of those two I found first. And then it set me on the path of his work. And I always say, like, he put the path. I was kind of like you. I was looking into everything, and I had all these pieces, but I couldn't see the whole picture. I was like you, Joe. I knew something wasn't right from an early age. I'm like, it can't be this. Like, this is not. It doesn't even feel right. And then when I saw Mark's work, and then I started learning about other teachers of natural law and spirituality, and talking about objective reality and what real anarchism is, not the Hollywood version. Then through their work, I started to get this tapestry that they put together, that you see the big picture. And then you go through a kind of a shock period. At least I did, Joe, where you're just like, wow, we are in trouble. They have planned this so right. And I hate when people say good can never, good always wins, evil can never win. And I'm like,
how's that doing?
I'm like, evil's kicking I'm like, evil can win if no good people are standing up and doing the work, and it can win, and it is right now. So I don't know why they say that. I just don't believe it.
New age fucking. Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
Yep. No, it's great. You're doing awesome.
Thank you. New age bullshit, dude, at its finest. And I'm guilty of spouting that crap too, because I bought into a lot of that. I'll be real with you. I bought into a lot of the new age crap because, and then, you see how much of a psyop it actually is. Like, when you do actually like break through that, like, of course they need to put like the new age movement there as like the last net to catch you when you break through organized religion and, and the pseudo spiritual crap that's out there. Like, yeah, the new age is set up deliberately, to try to get you and get you into this, pacifist kind of like soft, like you're just like a fluff, like who ain't about shit, don't stand in righteousness. You're not ready to defend yourself or anyone, and fight for freedom. You're just live and let live, and we're all one.
Don't get
and
angry.
don't
Don't
get
get
angry.
angry. Oh,
Don't tell people you should or you shouldn't. Like all this shit, you know what I'm saying? All this dumb crap that they spouted. But yeah, I'm right there with you. It's the same thing for me. Like I listened to Ike and Max Egan through those years that I was going down every rabbit hole, and still, like, even though like David Icke's presentations, like Remember Who You Are and Awaken, like phenomenal, you still like I thought I had it. I thought I understood everything. And then when I was introduced to Passio, it was like I got hit over the head with a sledgehammer.
yeah.
Like,
And you're like, I don't know anything.
like, he made it seem like, but it was like at the perfect time in my life too, because I was confused. Like, well, what can I do about it? And he essentially was like, wiped all that crap off the table. Like, listen, screw all that bullshit. This is what you need to know. These are the fundamental truths that you need to understand. And here's what you can do about it. Very simple, so simple that you overlook it, because you're looking at this big, complex problem that we're facing, and this control system that's in place that seems like all pervasive and like, like they're insurmountable. Like, and the truth is so simple and eloquent that you overlook it. You're looking for this big, complex, convoluted solution to the problem, and it's not it. The truth is always
That's
simple
so
and
right.
elegant.
When you finally when you break it down, you say that it's when you boil it all down and say like what natural law is at its core, it's so simple. Like you're just like really like, and that was a big thing for me. Is like it's not. We've really complicated it, and then they've done a great job. The social engineers have muddying the waters, and it's not that complicated. It really, when you boil it all down, it's not.
No, that so you're thinking like, okay, we need to, like most people in the so-called truth, freedom, conspiracy community, there is no community. There's none. This is the only community. Like the network, the people on the network, that's a legitimate community. And people like on Iconic, like those are people doing like real shit. Like know what they're talking about, have real practical solutions you can implement, and that don't buy into the illusory political bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Understand rights, understand real freedom, and are putting out that message, which is literally a handful of people compared to the global population, and that is pathetic. But you're thinking like we need off-grid communities, we need a parallel economy, we need energy, we need free energy device, we need like, how are we going to do this? We got to fight this. We got like, bro, no, listen. All it comes down to is you understanding that these people just have no right to even exist. Like as an institution, government has no right to exist. No one has any natural authority over you. No one has the right to tell you what you can and can't do. Where you can and can't go, what you can and can't own. No one has that right. You don't have the right to do that onto your neighbor. You don't have the right to tax your neighbor. You don't have the right to boss your neighbor around, steal their shit, tell them what to do. Therefore, no one does. No one could acquire that right. It doesn't matter how many people come together and believe they could grant that right to another person or group of people. It's bullshit. It's mind control. It's not real. It's illusory. Authority is an illusory mind control belief. It's not real. So that's, understand your rights, which is you have the right to do anything you want, anything your soul desires, as long as you don't initiate violent aggression onto another sentient being or damage or steal their shit. That's it. And don't advocate that happens in your name. And most people would say, yeah, I understand. I was taught this as a kid. Yeah, but if you believe in government, you're contradicting yourself. Every single person, no exception, contradicts themselves if they believe in government and say that they abide by objective morality and those principles of natural law. And you cannot be a statist and be a moral person. Sorry, it don't work that way. It just doesn't. And I'm not even going to blame you. You're under mind control. It's been put onto you by your parents, by the school system, by the politicians, by, Hollywood, the media. Okay. But at some point you got to grow the hell up. You know what I'm saying? To figure this shit out. You're an adult. You got to first and foremost, most important, you got to understand people's rights. You got to understand your rights and value that shit. And then apply that, how you want to be treated to everyone else. Like, if you don't have that foundation, like, what are we doing then as a people? Like, you know, like, no one even understands. I try to explain this to a kid, a 19-year-old kid that I work with. It is so alien to him. It's so foreign to him that it, like, and I don't realize that, like, I'm giving him the master class. Like, it's so stupid though, and it's so simple, just right and wrong, but it's the master class. It's not just the conspiracy bullshit. I'm giving this kid the answer. You know what I'm saying? The end all be all, the answer to it all. Like, never mind any of that conspiratorial bullshit. You want to look into it on your own, on your free time for fun, and talk about it with your friends. That's great. You want to affect real change, understand your rights. Come to understand objective morality, what your rights actually are, and apply that to every single human soul, every single sentient being, you know, and try to embody it and abide by those principles in all that you do, all that you support, all that you condone. And you will, and try to explain that shit to other people, and you will affect change. That's what
right.
we need to do, just on a scale large enough that it will begin to, like, all these little ripples begin to spread out, and then things can change. And that's why, again, I asked the question, is that even possible, dude, at this point? Like,
It's a good question.
how bad they got people, like, you know, like, it's very
it's a good question. I ask it so often. Like I was saying, I find myself asking that, like, that very question. I'm just like, can we, are we too far gone? And I bounce back and forth. Like, one minute I'm like, we're too far gone, then I'm like, no, maybe we can. And then I'm too far. And so yeah, it's I get exactly what you're saying, Joe, 100%. And I'm just looking at the time. We got about another like 15 minutes. I want to make sure we talk about your new album. I want you to, like, we got to get into this, and I'm hoping I can get you back on the show in the future, because I would love to continue this conversation further. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Appreciate you so much for taking the time to come here and join us and share your story and what's going on and stuff. And I want to make sure I give you lots of time to talk about your new album. So, and it came out a month ago, and I know it had. I know if I miss speak, please correct me. But I know that you were working on this or had it ready to come out, and then you had some health issues, kind of had to go on the back burner. But it's finally released. So I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna put links for you guys to go check it out on YouTube and stuff like that. So I will do that in the chat at the end of the show. People, please go show Joe some support. Give his album a listen. Tell us the name of the album, Joe, and what went in behind it and all of that great stuff.
Sure. The name of the album is Ultima Ratio, which stands for, I believe, like, the last argument or the last reasoning of the people, which I feel like was very fitting, especially, like, you know, for the time frame that we're in, you know, for, you know, people like me and Rick and others on the network, like, that are doing the great work and putting this material out there to people. Like, it really is, we're in a time where, like, you know, this is it. Like, if we don't reach people with words and try to get as many people on board with this message as possible, like, it's going to get really, really ugly, and, you know, it's going to get physical, and it's going to be very difficult to turn around. So
yeah,
that's the name I decided to go with. I heard it in a Passio presentation, and I thought to myself, like, immediately, like, that's a dope name for an album. I got to use that. So I started making the album back in 2021. I announced it early 2021. But at the time, so much crap was going on with the scamdemic. I was being interviewed. I was doing podcasts, making music, videos with Diesel and company. And so it kind of got put on the back burner. Then I got sick, was laid up for 2 years. And as soon as I, like, got back on my feet a little bit, I wrapped it up and put it out there back in November 22nd. I dropped it. And I'm very proud of it. Like I was saying, like, so much thought goes into that. Every line, every song, same amount of effort and thought. And I feel like it's my best work thus far musically.
Right.
And like, I encourage people, like, even if you're not into hip hop, if you don't like rap music, I don't blame you. You know, just give it a listen, or if not, read the lyrics. I put the lyrics in the description on YouTube, on Rumble, on Odyssey, BitChute. Just read the lyrics, and then take from it what you will, or let me know what you think. Reach out to me, through email or whatever. I just encourage people to do that at least, very, very, very powerful stuff.
Yeah, the message is incredible in the songs, and I love the fact that you do provide the lyrics because I love that. I love that. Anytime I can find the lyrics to songs, I just think it adds something, and so I'm so happy that you did that. So please go check out it. Like you said, go check it out, guys, and give it a listen. I have a lot of favorites in this one. This album is really great. Like I really, and you have some, a couple people on there with you. You got a song with Diesel, of course, called War is Calling, which is it's a killer track too. I mean, they're all good. Who else was on this album with you? Yeah, Diesel, and I can't remember the other person. Forgive me.
Synthesis as Diesel's sister.
There you go.
The song called Twin Flame. She's awesome MC, very, very talented.
Yeah, you got a lot of people you collaborate with, which is really cool. Like that's really cool about with you and Diesel and that. Like so many of your songs, that's something I don't think is in the rock community as much. Is this collaboration, which I've always loved about hip hop and the MCs and that. You guys all kind of help each other out and work together, and it's really needed. I love it, that working together aspect of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I since we vibe with each other so well, like of course I want to collaborate with other artists, but there's so many. When I come across an idea, like he's just the first person I hit up. Like, yo, here's my lay a verse down, send it back to me, and voila, it's done. And kind of like, since we both come with it every time, it's kind of like a secretive battle in a way, because we don't want to be outshined, by one another. So we both come as hard as possible on every track that we do, but it makes for great music. You know what I mean? So
I agree. I mean, you push each other, but that's what makes these songs great.
Yeah.
Is that you guys are encouraging each other, and that's a great thing to encourage people to be better. That's not a bad thing. That little helpful, that little friendly competition, absolutely.
Absolutely, yep. I mean, dude, I tell him all the time. I'm like, dude, we put one every time we drop a track, I'm like, bro, that's the best one we did. That's the best one we did so far. Like, it's just again, because the same amount of energy and effort goes into it, and it's amazing. Like it's just so powerful. Like the song "Natural Law." Like I listening to it the other day driving. I'm like, holy shit! Like, can't believe I did that. I was a part of that. Like it's such a powerful song with such a dope message. And by the way, allow me to just promote this real quick.
Absolutely.
Me and him are dropping an album together, which should be coming. We don't have an exact date, but within the next month or two tops. It is done. It is just in the process of being mastered and getting the videos made, and that shit is, dude, people ain't ready for that, bro. I'm telling you, like come out of that, the first two tracks is like two bulls in a china shop. It's gonna blow people's skulls open.
I'm so excited. That's so exciting to hear. I'm looking forward to it. I really am, and I will definitely play some of the songs as well. I'm going to be playing some of yours on my Friday show. So yeah, definitely. If you want to send me any of your songs from the new work or anything you're working on, I will definitely have my audience give it a listen, because that's really exciting to hear. I have to ask you, because I was telling you at the beginning, my favorite song on this album is "I Fought for You," and I need to know the story behind it. Like, how did this song come about? Because this is I love this song. I truly do. I listen to it every day, and I just think you really hit something. It's so personal to me. Like, for me, it feels like you wrote this so personal.
Thank you, bro. I really appreciate all the kind words you said about me and my music, dude. Thank you. When I heard the instrumental, I was driving, and that's just like the first thing that came to my mind. It was like, it was my daughter, and it was, we were going through the scamdemic at the time, and I was like exhausted from fighting with people, like going in the stores and fighting with managers. I'm not wearing the friggin' masks and doing, my podcast, and I was flipping out on people for complying, and I was just like exhausted. And I came across that instrumental, and that's the first thing that came to my mind. Like, my daughter was like a baby at the time, and I was like, I want to just put this out there to let her know, like, that I had the balls to stand up and fight against this. Not, and I didn't know where it was going. You know what I'm saying? At that time, it looked very, very bad. Even though we're in a bad place now, at that time, it seemed like this was it. Like the whole world's getting locked down and we ain't coming out of it. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly. Yeah.
I
That's
watched.
so.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And you got that. I just keep thinking, like, I'm like, your daughter's you're always going to have that song. So even as she grows up, she can always know that you wrote that song at that moment and that she was on your mind at that moment and that you did fight for her. And that, to me, that's something so amazing that you both have. Like, you wrote the song, it's, about her, and then she's going to have that for the rest of her life. Like, she can always go back and say, wow, like he wrote a song about this and about me. And I just think that's really, special that you
Yeah.
did that.
Well, thank you, bro. And yeah, it was sentimental to me, of course. And then coming out of being, laid up for 2 years, like I finished it. I started it before I got sick, and then I didn't want to switch it up and make it about being about fighting to get better, from the sickness. But so I just kept it for what it is, and it's it's definitely a powerful song. I wanted to know that your father, didn't take no shit. If the world did turn to shit, when especially when she's older, she could listen to that and know, like, her dad had the courage to stand up in the face of evil and mind controlled golems walking around with masks on and push back against all the nonsense, and her mother did too, which I gotta say. But
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Wow. And please, I just want to let everyone know again, go check it out after the show. I'm going to put the link for his YouTube channel and that. Please go show Joe some love, some support. Listen to the album, and the words are provided, as he said. So you can go in the description, you can find the words and just give it a listen. And then I'm sure everyone's going to listen to that song now because I brought it up. I fought for you, and I would love to hear people's thoughts on that after they give it a listen. And just get, and then reach out to Joe, if you want to ask him about it. He's easy to get a hold of, and you can tell he's probably more than willing to talk to you and answer any questions. It's amazing. And a great album. I'm looking forward to the new one, the stuff coming out. That's really exciting. And that's coming out very soon, actually. So that's something to look forward to. And I'm going to keep people posted on that as well. Is there anything that you want to promote? Like your website, do you have a website or anything, Joe, or where people can find your work? Excuse me, my throat's going. Anything that you want to promote, like your website where people can find your content, your work, anything like that?
sure, you could go to freedomforall.online.
Okay.
That's my website. I got, my music. You could just, there's icons to click for my music, my podcasts. There's merchandise on there, some dope designs for tees and hoodies that you could wear to spread the message, piss people off out in public. Yeah, that's it. You could go to Freedom for All down the line. Other than that, I mean, I'm on YouTube. Odyssey, bitch, you can find the links to all the social media sites that I'm on. And if you're going to listen to my music, honestly, I think the best platform to listen to it on is Bandcamp. Of course, if you want to listen to it for free, go on YouTube and Odyssey and whatnot. But the best sound quality, I've remastered like all my older tracks and put them out on Bandcamp. And I think that's the best way that you could listen and also support if you would like to.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I already put the link for your website in the chat room. I'm going to do your YouTube channel next. And please, as I said, go give it a check. We got 3 months. I love our chat room because Omega's let me know that we got 3 minutes till bumpers. So that's a good reminder. And I want to thank you once again, Joe, for being on the show and taking the time to come here. I would love to get you back on or even do a YouTube interview talking about what you went through with your health. I think I love talking to people that overcome health issues, and I've been screwed over by the medical industry. And this, I'm like you. I get so passionate and angry when I talk about it, and I've been going through it my whole life. And you had a big thing that you had to overcome, and you dealt with the medical system. I feel for you, and I would love to have you back on or do another interview for YouTube or something where you can really let loose about that, because as you said, they don't care about health. And so I would love to get you back on for that in the future. I think that's a powerful story, and you went through a lot. I mean, 2 years, that's no joke, brother.
No, it's not. And I would love that, dude. And yeah, bro, thank you so much for having me on. And you're cool as shit, dude. And keep doing your thing. I got mad respect for you, bro, for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. Same goes to you. Saying I want to shout out Diesel. If you're listening, what's up, bro? I hope I can get you on the show very, very soon. At least do a pre-record because of the time difference. And Joe's, you're always welcome back. Diesel always knows he's welcome back. I'd love to maybe do a show with both of you together to promote your new work. I mean, I'm up for it. So, yeah, if you're listening, Diesel, say hello, reach out to me. And I love your work too. So, I mean, incredible stuff. And I just hope people go check out the music and check out Diesel's work and get involved in your own way that you can. As Joe and I were talking about, everybody's got a gift. Figure it out. Get the message out there. This is more crucial now, I think, than it ever has been. Definitely in my lifetime. This is the time where I keep telling people, like, what do you when it's all said and done, you're going to ask yourself what you did to get involved. Like, did you do anything? Did you sit on the sidelines and let everyone else do the lifting, or did you do anything to try to push back? And these are the questions you got to ask yourself. It's questions I ask myself. I'm sure Joe has. It's that time. So get involved and definitely do it in your own way, as Joe was saying, like he does the music kind of thing. So it's awesome. There you go. Anyways, guys, there it is. Top of the end of the show for me. I'm going to just go ahead and wrap up this show. I will be right with you, Joe. I'm just going to, after the show ends here, I will definitely say goodbye. So stick around in the background there, and I will definitely come and speak with you. Thank you all so much for being here once again. Don't forget, I will be back Thursday for the Crypt Rick and Jonathan show. Then Friday, I will not miss it. That'll be the Crypt Rick's Rock and Roll Hour, where we talk all things rock, music, metal. It's going to be a great show, guys. So thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Stay good, stay kind, love each other, love yourself. And I will see you Thursday. Take care, guys.
Listening to Revolution Radio.
There we go. How was that, my friend?
Oh, that was fun, dude.
Awesome. I'm glad I really enjoyed that.
Thank you, bro. I did too. I know I went off on some ramblings, but.
Well, that's why I kind of stayed away from the health issues. I was like, oh, God. Like, you only dropped 3 partial F-bombs. That was amazing, by the way. See, I knew you could do it. I was like, if I get into this hole what he went through the last 2 years, it's gonna go bad.
yeah, dude. Nah, I tried. I was trying to be as conscious as I could.
Oh, you did amazing. What a great, thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. I'm just gonna go ahead and might as well end the recording here.